rather than having someone who knows it all, I would rather like a student to come and join me and enrich the profile. There is also a concept which I very strongly believe is that people are different, not difficult. I follow a principle very strongly, and it has helped me in reducing office politics to a great extent. Is you convince me or get convinced. I remember I had a 7-page CV, and I was claiming that I know everything. Today it has reduced to 2 pages or 3 pages max because I know nothing about HR.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Weekday Show. I'm your host, Amit Singh, founder and CEO of Weekday, a hiring marketplace where job seekers can 8x their chances of finding their perfect job, and recruiters can supercharge their productivity by accessing the largest database of talent in the country. We have 80% of white collar workforce of India on our platform. Check out Weekday at weekday.works. Happy to present to you the Weekday Show, where recruitment leaders share actionable insights and answer the most common hiring FAQs, and explore the hiring process from both sides and dissect real life interview scenarios. Our guest for today is Hemang Desai, who has more than 2 decades of experience in HR. He's currently the CHRO of Ishan Technologies, which is one of the leading IT companies with more than 1,500 employees. Welcome, Hemang.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure, Amit, to be here and sitting in front of you to discuss some of the vital recruitment aspects and help wherever I can.
Pleasure is all ours, Hemang. So, Hemang, for this particular conversation, we'll have 3 sections. First will be rapid fire, where I'll ask
Okay.
specific interview related questions. What happens during an interview? What should a candidate look for in an interview? And try to
Sure.
understand what exactly goes on in the mind on the other side of the interview, where there is a recruiter who's trying to evaluate you. What
Precisely.
exactly happens there? The second will be hire or pass, where we'll give like specific scenarios of an interview applicant, interview persona, and what would a recruiter do in that sense. And the third will be more about your journey. So let's get started with the rapid fire.
Yes, please.
Okay, awesome. So the first question, can you recall a moment in an interview where your impression of a candidate completely changed with one answer? It could be good or bad, both.
So I was asking about the impact of the background that he had on his current job, and he like was initially telling me that it is his boss who has created a strong impact on his career so far. But then later on, so it didn't create a good impression initially. That this is something like where he was following his boss wherever his boss went. So his career jumps were more dependent on his boss's career jumps, and that's why I was little taken aback. And then upon probing further, I was happy that he could also make a career by deciding this. So this could be a perspective, So I realized that not everybody who is dependent on a boss is good, is bad. It is sometimes a good decision to make.
Okay. But in general, do you see that as as like a problematic thing?
Yeah, I think it is not good because you are uniquely designed, so you have to make your own choices based on your interest, your liking. What is more important is you should get the passion out of your workplace. So if you are not keen on moving to a particular workplace and you are enjoying your current job, there is no point in moving just because your boss is moving in this particular case.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
So second one, is there a hire that stands out when you look back at all your years of hiring experience, and what exactly made that one particular person stand out?
So, in a particular case, the candidate I was looking for was somebody with rich experience into one particular domain. Here, I did not find that experience or the kind of the amount of depth that I was looking for. But that particular candidate showed tremendous passion during the interview. Like, if he did not get this profile, he would not be working on any other profile. So may not be with my company, but wherever he goes, he would prefer this particular profile. I could sense a kind of passion and urge to learn a lot of new things into this area, and therefore finally I selected him, because rather than having someone who knows it all, I would rather like a student to come and join me and enrich the profile.
So, do you think like candidates in an interview should specifically uh, share that thing with you that okay, maybe they are not the perfect fit on paper, but they're willing to learn, or should they generally fake that confidence and then fake that knowledge?
I don't know in general, but I would prefer a honest candidate over a know-it-all candidate, because generally the tendency in the interview I've seen is that to project that I know everything about it until they get exposed. And the tragedy part of interview is that you can't tell them on the on the face that you don't know anything and you are just bluffing. So, according to me, if you want to stand a fair chance, try to be as honest as possible about what you don't know, especially.
Okay, all right. So, on that note, the next rapid fire question: have you ever had a strong candidate bomb a simple question, and what question is that generally?
So usually, this I have seen among quite a few number of people, is what, when I ask them about, like, initially we, to break the ice, we generally ask about we ask questions which are more known to the candidates than to us. So for example, what about your family, your background, your career so far? I have invariably seen that people try to ignore or cover up, questions or information about their family and their personal background. Rather, they switch over to career immediately, as if they are in a hurry to close this deal. So you take my skills, why are you so much bothered about my family? You just take my skills and give me the money, is the kind of uh, impression that it creates. So while I believe that when you are getting into an interview, you are selling yourself as a person more than selling yourself into a number of skills. Of course, the skills are important for the company, but you as a person gelling with the career, with the culture, with the overall organization, is also very important. So when a HR person asks you about your background, your family, your culture, he is trying to gauge whether you are fit in that kind of a culture. You are not good or bad, but whether this fitment is really possible is what he or she is trying to catch.
All right. The next one. What's the biggest interview red flag that you've encountered?
So, like, there have been countless flags that I have come across, but most important would revolve around a person's integrity. When you try to find out which were the challenges the person faced, and when you try to find out how did he overcome it. Some people have come and answered me in a way that it creates an impression that he had found the shortest cut that was available to him, rather than going through the long route and putting himself in a lot of trouble. So such people we try to avoid, because they will not mind compromising on certain ethics or integrity if the situation puts them into a corner. So generally, people should avoid uh, answering in a way that sounds tricky.
All right. Uh, the last question in the rapid fire section. Uh, what interview question which recruiters ask you find the most overrated and should be retired now?
I feel that probing into academics and going through all the past experiences. Maybe I sometimes am puzzled when people come and ask me, when I faced interviews a couple of time, few years back, they come and ask me, what did you do in my first job at SR? How is that relevant today? If you ask me today whether any of the things which I did in SR is relevant, I don't think so, because things have evolved so much in last 2.5 decades that I've been into HR, that I don't think asking me questions about some remote past, or even in today's world, 5 years is a pretty long period. 5 years, things would change very rapidly. So I would suggest that you focus on the application of the skills that you have used, you want to use for HR professionals, also those who are interviewing, rather than going into too much of depth and details of what he has done in since the first job. And then people often end up asking about, as a corollary of this answer, is about why there have been frequent jumps. So you are short-lived everywhere, so are you planning to? I would rather, instead of starting on a suspicious note, I would rather like to take it as a challenge for me, that he has not been stable, he or she has not been stable in in his career so far. I would rather like to take it as a challenge and see that how long I can retain him. What really interests him perhaps has never been discovered.
But don't you think there are certain qualities within individuals itself which make them restless, which make them feel that they should jump sort of ships quickly,
No, so
or
my background is psychology, and I have done quite a few observations on that. So why a person becomes restless is because he doesn't enjoy what he is doing. So he is looking for something which interests him, which keeps him occupied, which keeps him meaningfully occupied as per him, not as per the organization. Now, it happens in many of the organizations that a creative person is put to a very boring job where he is supposed to count something on a continuous basis, where he has to create Excel sheets, enter data, which is very mundane kind of a job, and the person soon gets bored. So he's looking for something which is creative, but his profile, unfortunately, keeps building on that. So what he has done in the past, he gets a new job only based on what he has done in the past. So he keeps on doing the same job and he feels frustrated that this is what is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Every evening he is not satisfied with what he is doing, and therefore he keeps posting his resume for a better job. And that's how the job hopping happens mostly.
the end the rapid fire section. The next one, hire or pass. Okay, so the first one is hire or pass the over qualified candidate. So someone who's applying for a more junior position, but has more years of experience than required in general, more qualifications. Do you see that uh, as an avenue where there might be mismatch expectations in the future, or do you see that as okay, they are great on paper, let's take them and then utilize them to the best?
Again, it depends on a case to case basis and the company that where I'm working. Say, for example, if I take an example of Ishan, we usually do not throw away any CV unless there are other than profile issues. So, for example, we were hardly 250 or 300 employees. Today we are 1800 plus employees, and tomorrow we would be 4500 employees. So one universal problem that the uh, industry per se, and for that matter, I worked through various industries, all industries are facing today, is a scarcity of talent pool.
Yeah.
So you don't have simply the people in the pool, in the industry pool itself, which can satisfy the whole industry. So you'll have to preserve such rare species like who are overqualified for the job. Yes, it is important to recruit right fit, But
Mhm.
it is rare, I would say, an opportunity to have someone who is overqualified for the job. So underqualified, you always train them, put them to the right fitment of the job. But then overqualified, the problem is that there is no specific training available. So what you do is generally, I would rather solve it in two ways. One is,
Mhm.
I'll definitely recruit him and
Mhm.
keep him occupied in terms of how do I, ensure that his skills are utilized for a larger role. And
Mhm.
the moment I realize that yes, there is a larger role available for him, I would move him to moving. I would be moving him into that. And the other one is, I create I recreate the job that I was looking for, and I would enlarge that job to fit that candidate, because it is to my advantage that I'm getting a candidate who can do double the job than what I was looking for.
All right. The next higher up us, like the exit interview revelation. So, let's take an example of a candidate who, during the process of the interview, is revealed that they left the previous job because of interpersonal conflicts with their manager. Now, would you
Okay.
hire them on the basis of their skills or pass due to potential future conflicts, which might be a characteristic trait?
See, again, it is human tendency that I am always right, and the other person is always wrong. So,
Yeah.
if you ask him why did you leave the job, he would say the boss was wrong and he tried to manipulate, or he tried to impress upon me certain wrong things, or whatever may be the excuse. Now you have to see the gravity and the honesty with which the person is coming from. And then, secondly, what you have to also ensure is whether this situation which he is narrating can ever be repeated in my rules and regulations, my discipline, my kind of an organization culture. If yes, then I'll have to be cautious. If not, there is also a concept which I very strongly believe is that people are different, not difficult.
Okay.
Okay, so if it is purely because of some interpersonal conflict, I would not like the candidate to go. Just because it happened in a particular situation with a particular person, I would give them both a 50-50% chance, both parties involved in that conflict. And I would rather like to try him or her in my setup, my organization, with a fresh positive outlook.
All right. Uh, the next one, the reference check confusion. So let's say a candidate's references give mixed reviews, like one very positive, one fairly lukewarm, and slightly negative. Now, how do you judge this inconsistency and references?
I would have to internally rank them, the priority. Say, for example, the first one, the positive which has come up, is straight from his previous superior, the level one boss, and the other one has come from his college professor or somebody who had managed him long back. So I have to give them a ranking, the kind of importance that I give to the reference. So if the person is has managed him immediately, there are chances that the person who has given lukewarm response uh, uh, may have encountered something. Say, for example, my first boss tells about me that he was not very serious about his job, or he had run away from the office for some petty personal reasons. I might have evolved over a period of time, and last 10 years, I would have really put sincere efforts. Otherwise, my profile would not have been such reach. And therefore, my boss who had managed me just before 6 months has more clear picture about how good a professional I am. So I would therefore rate in terms of, or sometimes you have a reference from a professor who was teaching him in a college, and a boss who was managing him in the office. Both can be very different. So I have to rank which one I give more importance to.
Okay. So, like a follow up to that, but a different sort of higher up as scenario. So, like you mentioned, right? Like, for example, is in the previous organization, it comes out that there was some mistake that the individual made. Let's say that mistake was like an ethical violation that they did, but now are now like openly saying that yes, I made that mistake, but and I'm remorseful. I've learned my lesson. Uh, would you hire them based on this growth, or would you have concerns about integrity?
Okay. So, for example, there can be variety of ethical mistakes that a person does. Okay.
Yeah.
Some are linked to age, some are linked to your approach, some are linked to your attitude. I would say if they are like, I remember a case where a person had told me a similar thing that he was removed from the organization just because he did something which was very silly at that stage and that age. In those days, we used to have those paper bills from when you are on tour and you
Yeah.
go to a dhaba. You get a paper bill which was, written with some pen. So it was with ink that some 100 rupees or 100 or 10 rupees was written on that, and this guy put a pen mark and he made it 110 or something of that sort, and he claimed that. Okay, he got caught and he was removed. So if I take that as an example
Yeah.
and I do it now, I don't recruit him for that. It would not be a right thing to do. It would not be a fair thing to do. However, I would give him that marks for him to remember that and give me an honest response that yes, I was removed for this reason. And though his papers and other things would not denote anything that he was removed, it was just a resignation and it was accepted. But he said that this you might, if you go for reference checks to all my employers, this might come up from this organization, and therefore he told me in advance. Okay. So I would give him marks for his honesty. Perhaps it was his kiddishness that he did that to get 100 rupees more. I mean, somebody does this, may not appeal to me as an ethical person, but somebody did it. So maybe I'll have to give him that advantage. But if it was an attitude issue or an approach issue, I would definitely have to rethink about the candidate.
Did you end up hiring that person?
I did.
All right. The next one, the higher up as the negotiator. So someone who negotiates very aggressively for a higher salary during the interview process, and now that sort of makes you rethink that okay, did I make the right choice or not, or do you make them like do you hire them for their assertiveness or uh, sort of still hire them because there might be future conflicts over compensation, etc. Uh, do you see that as a red flag? Interviewing very aggressively, sorry, negotiating very aggressively.
I follow a principle very strongly, and it has helped me in reducing office politics to a great extent. Is you convince me or get convinced. Okay, so if the person is a good negotiator, I will consider him as an asset. Why? Because he exactly knows what is his value. I would rather not recruit someone who does not tell me initially that this is the price I would be coming for, and then opens up his card after joining or when the negotiations are over. It is always better. I would even encourage people who would say that okay, today I may be getting 50,000 as my CTC, but I would want 1 lakh without any justification, rather than telling me that because I'm planning to get 30% year in my current organization, this appraisal, and then I'll need another 30% to move to Ahmedabad, and justifying the cause of just wanting that 50%, which is not justifiable. So I would rather ask, expect a honest answer that yes, sir, this job change is only because I want to get a 50% hike. And then the other person would claim that no, no, I never care for the money, my job is important. So that's a dishonest answer according to me.
Okay. Yeah. So like you would sort of appreciate honesty more than.
Yeah, honesty and telling you the right market value that I have. If I can afford and if I really see that as a value for that person, I'll definitely pay him 50% more. But if I do not see the merit, and if I do not see the logical argument, I would definitely, however good he may be in terms of his negotiation or argument, if I don't want him, I will not take him.
Are you looking for a job? You can 8x your chances of getting one by using Weekday. How 8x? By doubling the chances on three fronts: referrals, customizing your resume, and applying to double the jobs. Weekday can help you on all three fronts. Did you know that you can double your chances of getting a job by asking referrals? You can do that via Weekday by just one click, where people can give referrals to the existing companies via the Weekday platform. The second one is customizing your resume for every role. Did you know that 60% of the applicants of a job are never seen by a human recruiter? You can double your chances by customizing your resume based on every job posted. Well, it's not feasible to do that. You can do that via AI. So, Weekdays Chrome extension allows you to customize your resume for any job. The third front is applying to double the jobs. Imagine if there was an easy apply on every careers job posted everywhere. What we allow via front end automations is that you can just click once and no need to fill multiple long forms on every careers page. Give that information to us once and utilize it everywhere else. All right. Great, Hemang. This brings us to the end of the second section. Let's move on
Right.
to the third one. Yeah, so now let's talk a little bit about so your journey in the last 2.5 decades. But before we do that, let's talk about a little bit about what got you into HR. Like, what was the thing? At what point did you realize that this was a great career to have, uh, or this is the profession that you wanted to take?
It's an interesting thing. I had not planned for it. I did my BSc in physics, and I wanted to go for something which was near to engineering. My dad is an engineer, so I wanted to be part of that engineering fraternity. And but then I realized that this is not what I. In the final year, we had two papers. One was nuclear physics, and one was atomic physics. And I realized that both started with Niels Bohr's assumption and of having a nucleus and the electron moving around it. And I realized that no. I want to live a life which is real, which is where I can see. I can't live on the assumptions and things like that. So then I explored a bit, and then I realized that yes, what do I like? What am I passionate about? And it is people. So I did not go for an MBA, which was a routine MBA HR, and I did MSW, Masters of Social Work from Baroda, MS University, quite reputed. It's third institute in the country, number three institute in social work study. So I did a professional social work course wherein the basis was there are five pillars of the course, and which is psychology, sociology, economics, philosophy, political science. And these five pillars are the ones which constitutes a human being. So we what we study during those 2 years is all about human being, and that created a lot of interest in me about why do people behave the way they behave, why are we what we are, and I can tell you I'm still a student. In my first year, I remember I had a 7-page CV, and I was claiming that I know everything. Today it has reduced to 2 pages or 3 pages max because I know nothing about HR. I'm still trying to struggle through what people are really, because each person you meet is a unique example. And that summarizes why HR is so interesting for me.
So, like a quick follow up to that, do you think people who have psychology background or sociology background make for good HRs?
In today's scenario, it does. Because when people ask me, like, why not MBA HR? Where MBA HR, as I understand, restricts primarily a person to a corporate setup, okay, or a business setup.
Yeah.
Whereas today's demand is that if a person is come to office after having a quarrel with his spouse or with somebody near and dear, there is a chance that his efficiency will go down. So a person who is your HR should know that what is going through in his mind. Apart from that, today I would say HR, if I have to sum up what is human resource management in a corporate setup, it is nothing but aspiration management. So if your person uh, and it is not so simple as you go out and ask them what is your aspiration and you come to know, yeah, this is your aspiration, okay, I'll manage this. So you have your own restrictions, your own boundaries, your own constraints in terms of managing these aspirations. Now, and the biggest challenge I would say is many of the people, they themselves do not know what are my aspirations. And at this stage, your understanding about human psychology, about human sociology, the social psychosocial economic background they come from, a knowledge about that is what helps you to culminate or rather articulate their aspirations and then sit with them, understand their mindset. It really helps to deliver your HR goals effectively. The others are all tools and systems to get you there. But ultimately, what does the organization expect from an HR person is that how do you manage these people? How do you create the efficient output out of these people? And that is what it helps. Because every person, I believe, would expect from the organization what is in there for me. So, unless my aspirations are aligned with where the organization is going, I would not like to stick with this organization. So, I had an example that one person came to me with a CV, and I was working with a fintech company at that time. And then that person came to me and said, "Sir, I want to be a manager. Can you make me a manager?" So I looked at his CV and he had some 3, 4 years of experience. And I said, as per my company policy, we only have managers who are 8 years and above
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
So he said, sorry, sir, please give me my CV back. I'll go to the organization which gives me a manager after 5 years. That's what the crux of the discussion was.
Yeah.
So, you have to be flexible. At the same time, you have to have people's aspiration in mind when you are framing the policy itself, so that there is always a way or a path for high aspirants, people who are ready to give more to achieve their aspirations faster,
Yeah.
and there is always a fast track available for people who want to move faster.
But like for example, let's take this particular scenario. How would you navigate this scenario wherein there is uh, there is general, there is a policy, but there are certain people who you want to fast track, uh, but isn't that unfair to all the other people who did not get fast tracked because of the policy? So how would you handle this sort of conundrum?
I'll give you a more complex scenario where a person says that I don't want to retire from here or anywhere. I want to be an entrepreneur. Okay. And so then I've this was what I was telling you about a manager aspiration was some 10 years back. But over a period of time, what has happened is that the policies are no more thick volumes of documents kept tucked inside the HR desk. They are very, very dynamic. So every 6 months, your HR policies itself keep changing, keep evolving. So gone are the days when levels within the organizational hierarchy were judged by the designations that were put. So now I see the manager designation is irrelevant. Today, the hierarchical levels are built more. I'm answering still to that first question. So the hierarchical levels are built purely for internal positioning, and the designations are more accustomed to how good you can represent the company outside. So, for example, you might have seen in some of the banks also the very young boys and girls who are given vice president designations. Okay, whereas in manufacturing and all, the vice president means he is managing the whole country. So these are the changing times. So each organization will have to design their own structure, their own ways to deal with these aspirations. So coming back to the person who would come and ask me whether I want to become an entrepreneur after 5 years, will your company help me in reaching my aspirations?
Yeah.
Here I have a chance to put him on a job rotation where I'll get a guy in finance for 2 years. I'll get a guy. I would tell him that after 5 years, when you become an entrepreneur, you will not have a choice that I would work only for finance, I would work only for HR, I would only work for marketing and not for manufacturing. So you will have to get grilled through all these functions. You will have to go deep down, get an eye on detail, and that's how you become a successful entrepreneur. So I'll take him through all the profiles, and in the process, if he finds his aspiration in one of the functions, it would be good. So in my current organization also, we are planning to have a multi-skilling approach, a kind of, because anyways we are not getting enough numbers of skilled people in each and every area. So we will have to get this approach as an innovative approach where we encourage people to job hop within the organization.
So, Hemang, let's talk a little bit about what does a CHRO do? Like, what exactly is roles and responsibilities, and what are the things that ends up being your KPIs, your most important
Yeah,
things, not your things,
yeah.
and more
So
important because like a lot of early stage professionals want to become CHROs, but not knowing what exactly does it entail.
yeah. So according to me, CHRO's role has also evolved. Uh, Erstwhile, there was nothing like a term called CHRO. They were called as head HR or any other president HR or any other designations. But CHRO has been a recent term, and I believe therefore lot of responsibilities have evolved for a CHRO. Earlier, someone who manages HR as a function
Mhm.
was termed as head HR, according to me.
Mhm.
So 70-80% of his time used to go for the routine operations activities at a higher level. Maybe he was managing the senior management team, he was managing CEO's office sometimes, he was a glorified EA to the CEO or the MD of the company. And then a time came when we realized that no, CHRO can be put to use for much bigger cause. So today's CHRO, it actually gives the direction to the organization. He has actually found a place in the boardroom. He has actually found a place in the business to correct even the CEO. So he has to go one up above the CEO to think, because the CEO is after all a human being, and he can also make a mistake. He looking, so for example, I'll tell you that in one of the organizations, my CEO wanted to open up an office at a particular location, and the decision was almost made because he saw lot of lucrative business there, and the finances were okay. Finance people were also okay about investing there, and the banking people were supporting us. Everything was going on well. And then I was roped in, and I realized that getting the right people there, attracting people to work there, would be a difficult thing to do. And instead of that, a place which was 100 kilometers away had an airport, had everything possibly a human being would want there, and we would be able to attract the person there more. So
Mhm.
a business decision was changed based on HR input,
Mhm.
so that the g- sustaining the business prospect becomes easy. So HR's role has gone beyond just managing the internal people, but they have to also have a say in how business decisions are taken, especially when it leads to client. Because I read somewhere that why your client pays you is not for your product or your I mean, of course, for your product, but ultimately not for your machinery or a technology, because that can be deployed by anybody who has a money.
Yeah.
But he or she is paying you for your skills, and those skills are your people. So therefore HR gains a lot of importance where your business decisions are taken. So CHRO has a very, very significant role to play beyond his four or five sub verticals of HR.
Now let's talk a little bit about HR. So specifically, what are the different functions that exist within it, and more around, let's talk about when a candidate applies to, let's say they say a job opening on your website, what exactly happens behind the scenes from there on? Like, I apply, I have a resume, I have applied to the resume, what will happen now within the HR function? What happens in different functions within the company?
So if I talk about Ishan Technologies, we have a very robust HR process in the shape. I would say not complete, but yes, we are planning to. Is where right now I am putting a lot of focus, and fortunately, our CMD is totally behind me to get this going. Is a lot of focus is being put on manpower planning. So what exactly we want, how many numbers we want for the next 2 years is what you are planning based on our business forecast and what we are expanding into. So you would be happy to know that we are gradually moving from our conventional business, which we did for 25 years, which is integrated lease line. While we are still into network business, we are also getting into something of today and something of future, which is cloud computing, which are managing public and private clouds, which are into cybersecurity, which is into info security, which is into data centers. So that's the technology we provide, the infrastructure we provide. So kind of uh, technologies would completely change from what we have been doing.
Yeah.
So as a result, the need of the hour is very different. Whether it is sales, whether it is pre-sales, anything and everything that you talk about other than the technology function also would require considerable knowledge and skills to sell this kind of technologies to our clients. So, therefore, our requirements have also changed. Our quality of people will also evolve or change in the time to come. As a result, we have been more attaching more precision in our recruitments. So, coming back to your question, the process that we follow is that once we generally use extensively Naukri.com and LinkedIn, to be very honest, web-based portal. We don't hire an agency to recruit people. So we have an in-house team of about 7 to 8 recruiters, hardcore recruiters, who do the scavenging of the profiles. And then once the right profile is reached to, we approach the candidate, try and understand what are his uh, reasons for coming to us, what all things he knows about Ishan Technologies. We give a lot of importance that the candidate, if he's not aware, when our recruiters tell them, brief them a lot about what we are doing and why we are doing, and we ensure that before the person takes the final decision of joining us, uh, keeping aside those 10-15% who are desperate to move whichever organization comes their way, we are wanting that majority of the people want takes a very conscious decision in coming to Ishan. We are unique, as our slogan says, we are uniquely yours. So we are unique in many ways. While we are still in technology business, we are into IT ES business. We still work on a 6 day schedule, from 10 to 7. So we have a very high octane requiring job. So people who want to just relax and enjoy and sit at home, do not come here. This is what we very clearly tell them. You want to work in a high energy, high octane kind of a work profile, please do come. So while you may be put to a very comfortable place in our office or wherever you are, your comfort is my responsibility. But at the same time, if you are searching for a cozy work from home kind of scenario, this is not a place. Okay, so we are very clear about what we are and what we are not. At the same time, we guarantee you a very fast career growth, because our average age is 29 and 29 plus. So we are a very young organization, I would say. And uh, our uh, our growth is very rapid. So we want to reach a 4,500 plus employee strength by the end of 2026. So which is going to be more than double, almost 250% growth is what we are looking at. But at least we have envisioned, we have created steps within the organization. We have built a strategy how to attract such a huge workforce, and we want to keep the average age low. Recently, we have been certified with Great Place to Work, and that's very proud moment for us. Being a 1,800 employee, it's not easy to keep the standards by which we get this certification. So it's been a very proud moment, and then that is what we want to keep. So we have been honest to people. We have been managing this with an open door policy. So our CMD, who is a founder, CMD, has kept his doors open, and he is very sensitive about people issues. So uh, that's been a culture we have percolated down below. And any employee with slightest discomfort can approach HR at first, and then he can knock the doors at the highest level. So that's a kind of culture that we want to adopt to, and we have adopted so far. So that's what we have in the offer. And the recruitment process has been fairly simple. So we create 1 or 2 rounds of interviews, and we close the offer depending on the complexity of the profile and the kind of fitment that that the candidate is
And
in.
for a particular role, like uh, how many are, like for example, you mentioned, right, like people search on recruiters who search on Naukri and LinkedIn versus people who apply to you, like on
So the
with your current age? Yeah.
ratio depends, Amit. So initially, say for example, profiles like finance executive or accounts executive, you would expect more people to apply than we select. Okay, so there we give more importance to the exact fitment in the role, whereas in profiles like pre-sales or solutioning, product development, we find rare profiles who are you know who have worked in telecom industry, who have been accustomed to the kind of products that we are designing right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, are rare to find. So we understand there would be 70-80% fit. It would be good. So maybe out of five profiles that we select, maybe three gets rejected because they are not exactly fit. So maybe two we have to comply with, or we have to train them a little. So in such cases, we have to go for younger profiles who have more flexibility to learn and grow within the role, because we are ourselves evolving into this new business areas that I just mentioned.
All right. Uh, so Hemang, this brings us towards to our last question. What advice would you give to two sets of advices which you have not given so far? One to early stage recruiters, and the second is applicants or job seekers in the current job market.
So, for the recruiters, you are not supposed to. And I would, Amit, share with you an amazing anecdote that I had dealt with. I mean, I was talking to some of the MBA HR students who were in their final year, about to get jobs in industries, corporates. They were eyeing for their campus interviews, uh, probably in a month or two. And I asked them, like, what is your role in recruitment? What is an HR person does in a recruitment? So some people immediately came with an answer that we have to coordinate with the candidate and the internal interviewers who are supposed to be there. So I said I can give that job to a receptionist. Why would I need a HR person to do that job? So then they asked me, then they said, sir, salary negotiation. I said, I bet you don't have any right to negotiate the salary. You have been given a figure and you have to finish that job within that figure. So that's not my job, in fact. So then they said, no, we make the JDs and all. I said, you take the JDs readily from the HODs. You never make it yourself, right? And even if you make it, that won't be the right thing to do. So I don't need you for that also. So then they were all surprised. And then I told them the exact thing which I want to tell all the recruiters sitting here
Yep.
is that if you are part of HR, your job is whether this organization provides him or her, the candidate, the right kind of platform that he or she wants. So your job is to probe what is his or her lookout. I mean, what is he looking for? And secondly, what is it that your organization can provide? And be honest to yourself. You don't have to prove anything. So in what is largely termed as culture fit, I would break it down to simple tasks. That if a person is has worked in a company like Reliance or Tata's, and if he is looking for a job in Ishan, whether he is hands on, because in a big organization you would find usually tasks quite cut out, whereas in a organization like Ishan, which is evolving, which is growing very rapidly, you don't have very clear task cut out. Whatever comes on your table next day morning, you are not aware that this would come to you and you have to resolve it. So somebody who is dynamic, somebody who is ready to take that dynamism in his stride, is what is preferred, rather than having a person with a very I would not say somebody who is policy driven is bad, but he doesn't fit into my organization where everything is not so structured as on today. So, you would expect a person from L&T or Tata's to come and ask me, where is this policy and that policy and this system and this process? I may not have all of them. But somebody who is willing to put in his efforts to create a structure, create a policy, help me build a process around it is always welcome.
And what advice would you give for job seekers?
Job seekers, I would rather advise them to have have an open mind. See, because unless you are fixated to a particular thing, let's say some people come to me, "Yes, sir, I want that general manager designation, I want that 1 lakh pay package." uh, that too, nowadays people ask for take home salary. So you have to have also that flexibility, that what do I offer to the organization? Is there something more I can give? Because the organization would also seek value for money. Organization would also seek a return on investment. So you need to be prepared to give that extra mile. And trust me, when you are giving to the organization, you are actually building value to your CV also. So it is not that only organization is giving when you are giving more. It is you also who are gaining out of it. Okay, so you have to uh, have that attitude, that what else I can do without being told to do. If you are only expecting every direction to be given to you, then probably you are losing a lot which you can do beyond the cutout profile. So, yes, you can insist that I need a job profile. Yes, you can say that broadly I need directions on which areas I would be working on. But by and large, I believe that keep an open mind, keep a boundaryless structure in your mind, so that you don't have to rely on anyone for your own innovation and value add.
All right, great, Hemang. This brings us to the end of this podcast.
Pleasure is
Uh,
mine.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights here, and I'm pretty sure a lot of our audience will see a lot of value from this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are you struggling to hire talent? At Weekday, we have built a database of 80% of white collar workforce with their email, phone number, resume, and salary details. And you can send automated email plus WhatsApp plus call sequences to them. Yes, we call candidates on your behalf as well. Because India runs on WhatsApp and calls, we end up getting as high as 40% response rate. Gone are the days of sending a LinkedIn invite and waiting for days for someone to accept. Just use Weekday. Whether you are looking for a database to supercharge the productivity of your recruiters, or you're looking at a complete AI recruiter to do everything for you, we have a solution for you. Visit weekday.works to know more.